Morning, ladies and gentlemen. November 21st. Hey, 1 week until Thanksgiving. I don't know if you're excited, but I am. Okay. So I wanted you to think back about what we've been doing, which is a lot of finding the zeros. In order to find the zeros, that's where we set our function equal to 0 and solve for x. So I want to solve this function. Solve for x. And we can do that a lot of ways. In this case, we can actually factor. So I want to factor this. What times what is 2x squared? 2x times x. And then last times last has to be negative 15. What times what is negative 15? Negative 5 and 3, or negative 3 and 5, or negative 1 times 15, or negative 15 times 1. You got lots of options there. I'm going to use the negative 3 and positive 5. I'm actually going to put the positive 5 on the inside and the negative 3 on the outside. How do I know if I've done this correctly? Rainbow. Anytime you have a number in front, you need to check the rainbow. So when I check the rainbow, 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x, and 5 times x is 5x. 5x and negative 6x is where that middle term comes from. So anytime you have a number in front, you really need to check the rainbow. And then we can set each bubble equal to 0. So 2x plus 5 gets set equal to 0, and x minus 3 gets set equal to 0. And this is what you guys did over and over and over on the worksheet yesterday. Find all the bubbles and then set each bubble equal to 0 and solve. How do I solve for x here? Subtract the 5, so 2x equals negative 5, and then this 2 times x. Divide by 2, yeah. We got in the habit of square rooting yesterday. So negative 5 over 2. And here, what do we have to do to get x by itself? Add the 3. So, and then if we want to graph, we have these lovely solutions for x. So on the x-axis, I'd go to x equals 3, and that's a point where my graph crosses the x-axis. And negative 5 halves is the same as negative 2.5. And there's another point. This is a parabola. Since it's positive, it's an up parabola. So it looks something like that. Today, we are doing that exact process in reverse. Meaning today, they're giving us the answer. They're giving us the solution, x equals 3. And what we want to do then is convert it back to a bubble. Well, that's easy to do. If I have x equals 3, all I have to do is move the 3 back on the same side, and then it's in bubble form. And then I just get to multiply my bubbles together to get my polynomial equation. So today we're just doing the process in reverse, which is kind of nice. We're just multiplying. Well, it gets slightly more challenging than that, but not really. So, example 1. Write a polynomial function that has real coefficients using the given zeros. Real coefficients is a clue, meaning you shouldn't have anything imaginary when you're done. Okay, so we will be dealing with i's, but when you're finished, you shouldn't have any left over. Write a polynomial function that has real coefficients using the given zeros. All right, so what they're giving me here are zeros. So on this one, they're giving me 3 zeros. And what I like to do is I like to say, well, and what that means is we have a solution, x equals 1. We have this solution, x equals -4. And we have this solution, x equals 5. So those are the 3 zeros. And what I need to do is just push them back into bubble form. So I want to move this 1 so it's on the same side with the x. How do I move it over? Subtract it. It becomes x minus 1, and now it's in bubble form. If I have x equals -4, what's bubble did it come from? X plus 4. If I have x equals 5, what bubble did it come from? Let's see. If I have x equals 5, what bubble did it come from? -5. Yeah, all you have to do is slide them back over so that they're the same side as x. And now our job is just to multiply. And that's going to give us our little polynomial. And you guys know how to multiply. That was half of your test that you all did very well on. So we can multiply any two together. I might as well just start with these two. We're going to multiply them together first. So I'm going to distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. Distributing the -1. -1 times x is -1x. And -1 times 4 is -4. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up just a little bit. I get an x squared. Positive 4x and -1x gives me a 3x. And then minus the 4. And now I still need to multiply in my x minus 5 bubble. How am I going to multiply that by x minus 5? The square, the box. I like to do the box. I like the box. X squared plus 3x minus 4, and then x minus 5 alongside. And I like to fill in the box. Really just makes everything nice and neat. What is x squared times x? X cubed. And 3x times x. 3x squared. -4 times x. -4x. X squared times -5. -5x squared. 3x times -5, -15x. And -4 times -5 gives me a positive 20. And then I can just combine like terms. So I have my x cubed, -5x squared, and 3x squared gives me -2x squared. -15 and -4x gives me -19x. And then my last positive 20. And there is my function, my polynomial. So we're literally just doing everything in reverse today. What's different about letter B? There's some eyes. Okay, so here's the thing. Yesterday you had a fantastic worksheet that just made you factor, and there were lots of x squareds that you had to solve for. What happened if you got an I for an answer? Was it just like a positive 1 I? What did you get always? Plus or minus? I's always come in pairs. Always come in conjugate pairs is what it's called. C-O-N-J-U-G-A-T-E. Conjugate pairs. Meaning this is trying to trick us. They're telling us 2i was one of the zeros. But if we have a positive 2i, what must we also have? X equals 2i was one solution, but there must also be another one. What's the other one? minus 2i. There must also be the negative 2i solution because they have to come in pairs. When you take a square root, you always have to have the plus or minus. So when you have an I, you want to make sure, do I have both of them? Right? If they gave you the positive and the negative, then you're fine. But if they left one off, then you need to put it on there because there's always going to come in pairs. Then I also have the solutions x equals 3 and x equals negative 3. So these are all 4 of my solutions for x. And now all I need to do to write my polynomial is convert them into bubbles. If I have x equals 3, what bubble did it come from? X minus 3. Yeah, all we have to do is move it over by subtracting it. If I have this solution x equals negative 3, what bubble did it come from? X plus 3. If I have the solution x equals positive 2i, what bubble did it come from? It's minus 2i. And again, the last one, x equals negative 2i, came from x plus 2i. And so all you have to do is move those numbers back on the same side with the x, and you're in bubble form. Super easy to do. And now, here's where you want to pay very careful attention. If you have a pattern, here we have x minus 3 and x plus 3. If you have a pattern like x minus 3 and x plus 3, you want to multiply those together. We also have a pattern here, x minus 2i and x plus 2i. If you have a pattern, you want to multiply those together. That's going to be the easiest thing to do. No matter where they fall, you just multiply your patterns together first. All right, what is x plus 3 times x minus 3? Good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and distribute because not enough people answered. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is positive 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. Every time you have that sum and difference pattern, that middle term cancels out. And so we're left with x squared minus 9. All right, same thing with the back end here. Going to multiply my pattern together. X times x is x squared. X times 2i. What's that? Weird, right? 2ix is one way you could write it. Negative 2i times x. Negative 2ix. And then last times last. What's negative 2i times positive 2i? Negative 4i squared. So negative times positive is negative. 2 times 2 gives me 4. And I times I is I squared. Again, the middle term, positive 2i and negative 2i cancels out. What we need to worry about is this I squared. What is I squared? Negative 1. Very good. I squared equals negative 1. So this is really negative 4 times negative 1. What happens to that? It becomes positive. Yeah, negative 4 times negative 1 turns into plus 4. Notice we get a plus. Now we can multiply these last two together, which turns out to be pretty easy. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 4 is 4x squared. Negative 9 times x squared is negative 9x squared. And negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. So my polynomial becomes x squared minus, x to the 4th, my bad. X to the 4th minus 5x squared minus 36. Most of what you're doing today is just practice multiplying, okay? Watch out for patterns. Always, always, always multiply those patterns first. And I squared equals -1. So you want to change that up. Do you have questions for me? Do you need another one, or do you think you have it? You got it, right? Yeah, that's God. Okay. 38 to 43, ladies and gentlemen. I think you can do it. Get her done, please. Get her done.